put down 5:30, so I don't know how we had 5. Because I was on a call with um,
Jen, you
Cooper Park.
sent the email saying you wanted to change it to 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I may have done all those things, Marie.
Okay,
I take all blame for all things at all times. Okay, so here, what we said, and I'm glad you're there, the two people that we need to have there, Lisa and hi, Bella, I see you're there. And Tish.
She's here. She's to Dad right now. She'll be right out.
All right. Tish and I and Marie were just on a call with Cooper Park, so we're all bonded right now. And we have Lisa and Francoise, and I'm trying to see who else is on. Mainly what I wrote to you all about, here's participants, is that we need to prepare for, and we could start, Lisa and Francoise, we are going to prepare for our meeting on the 29th. And and I don't see Toby here, but it's my understanding that we're now having Carol. It took quite some effort to get Carol and Congresswoman Maloney to get a date that we could do, and we're grateful that Marie and the community board could give us that time, 6 o'clock on the 29th. Now, we said that Lisa and Francoise and Toby would be speakers in this session, if you recall. So look thrilled. We're saying, and let's just get down how you want to do this, because we want it to be, we have a leading congresswoman that's coming, and how long she's staying, maybe Toby knows, but everybody tried to reach her. So we have, and when they went back and forth, and I think Jane Poole in the end got her, but either way, people all were reaching out to her, and we have a leading congresswoman who is from our district, but who didn't do too well politically in getting the votes from our district, if you recall, right? Should be important for us to know. And she certainly is one of the leading voices on women in Washington, D.C. So we have to kind of direct her give her, and you are political people, what would you hope most to hear from Carol Maloney? And what do you think are examples of Toby's business, Lisa and Francoise could add and animate to looking at what's happened to women because of the coronavirus? Francoise has talked, by the way, Lisa, pretty strongly about what's happened to local women in business, and particularly mothers. And I think that angle, frankly, that you have been bringing up about mothers not getting elected to office and what that means in terms of things would be of importance to both you and Lisa. And Lisa certainly talked about the difficulty of trying to do anything with the children and the school thing. But have you thought about what amount of time should you have, and then how do we want the audience to animate this whole thing? Because we'd like to come out with something, right? We're starting a conversation about something that we would like to see happen in our neighborhood. We know she is a ranking Democrat, and she is very involved, I'm assuming, on both the child care and the women's work thing, but we have to do more homework on really where is she well placed, so that we're targeting Jane. Hi, Jane. Does anybody know what committees Carol Maloney is on? So we have to do our homework about her and where she's placed, right? We know she's going to do a women's museum in Washington. Any advice for how you want her to be briefed and prepare for this meeting? Jane, now that you got her here.
Hi. I'm so sorry that I'm a little bit late and I have to leave early.
You're not late, because I've kept going back and forth between 5:30 and 5. I've already done mea culpa 5 times, put up a sign.
Well, hi, everyone. Looking forward to the 29th. I just, should I talk about, I have a friend who can moderate the discussion.
Yes, talk about that. So let's,
Her name is Biz Mitchell, and she was the Elizabeth, but she goes Biz Mitchell. And I can, I think you could look up her LinkedIn, or I could send it to everyone. But she was the editor of George magazine, which was JFK Jr.'s. She was the executive editor of that. I know, Francoise, do you love George? I know. So she wins, right? Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
we can't hear her.
Sorry, I'm like trying to cook dinner. Josephine's on her iPad. Don't judge. Love it, and I had all of them, and then I think when Matt and I started dating, he started suggesting I get rid of my de-hoarding of magazines, because I had a lot of Vogues and Rolling Stones and National Geographics too. So
I understand.
So we have a famous moderator.
She's
that-
really cool. She's an author. She had an article in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago. She lives in the neighborhood. She's a single mom of 2 girls, 2 teenage girls. Really sweet person, good sense of humor, down to earth. But she's an author. She wrote a book about the Statue of Liberty, and then Diane von Furstenberg read it and decided to make a museum at the Statue of Liberty based on Biz's book, which is pretty cool. And yeah, and she's been on Charlie Rose and Pat O'Reilly and Chris Matthews and all that.
So we're upscaling ourselves. We're now zooming up.
Well, I think it's nice because sometimes I've been on some of those panels where there's a lot of, it gets a little disjointed and not everybody gets to speak. One
Yes.
person goes on too much like I'm doing now, so I'll stop. But anyway,
Go on,
Yeah.
Francoise.
did she have the 2 questions? So one, does the 29th, could it happen on Zoom, or does it have to happen on WebEx? And then do we need somebody who is like super technically savvy? You know, 'cause I know that when we did Joe Lental's birthday, I think actually someone a good friend of Victoria's was like helping do all the technical stuff. So basically it's like, so we would have a moderator and then a tech as
Marie,
well.
are
that's a
you
great
there?
idea. That's a really great idea.
Marie Bueno, are you there? Okay, we'll find out.
I'm just going to say if it can happen on Zoom, that might.
So can we put that in the chat here? I'll just put it in the chat that it would be better if we could have, and I will send a note over to the Alice. Because this is a community meeting instead of what they got 2 classifications. Somehow all the people that sign up will be included as members of this meeting. So it won't be worrying about whether you can speak or not speak. Everybody that signs up, we got that far on the technology. That's all I know. So I will talk to Marie and see what.
The amount of time that they're going to be speaking also, I think you have to allow.
No.
Well, do we have Carolyn for an hour and a half?
That's what I'm saying. I was hoping Toby would be here. I said everybody's been going back and forth. There's been 3 different people going back and forth with her office. So we can clarify how long will she be there, and then how long, because we want to have, this isn't just about her as a star. I think Francoise and Lisa and Toby are really stars. That's the star.
Totally.
And you're the ones that are living this and seeing it. And to me, that is what's important. And Carolyn knows that we want to make sure that she is listening to what I would hate her to do, and I don't think she'd like to do, unless she has to run, is not to be listening to the 3 of you speak. I hate that when people come in and then they're gone. And particularly since she is somebody that could be an ongoing advocate and a worthwhile person to work with in light of the coronavirus. You know, and she's right there in Washington, as Nydia is. And I think our plan, by the way, for those of you that are on the call, is that the plan is to have Nydia Velasquez come in at another time where we focus on public housing and housing and women. And because there's a million questions, as we know, on the public housing end of things. And you now have that incredible woman that's been appointed that could be great as the head of HUD. So it's a new day. It's what we have to look at this all as a new day. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll probably get rid of our governor. That's and our mayor will be gone. You know, we're cleaning slate, but Carol Maloney will be here, and Nydia will be here.
We just have to make sure that Karen Maloney comes to the meeting, and I don't want to have her representative there.
I think that's really important, okay? We're getting our bottom lines down. Marie's saying we want to make sure she actually is coming. It would not be acceptable that she's not coming.
Right.
She
You know,
said
we have
she's,
to know.
yeah.
And people, because she did not do well in our district, that would not help. I've always had positive thoughts about her, and when I've worked with her, she was terrific, but I've had to listen to other people talk differently. So that is a question. And you're working with her right now, aren't you, Jane? With the
Well, I mean,
parks?
kind of. Yeah,
Kind of, a
hopefully.
little bit.
I'm still working on getting through to DOT. But yeah, but I have some help now, so.
You know, and we could be, you know, she's probably going to be holding hearings and other stuff in Washington that'll be on Zoom too. The nice thing about Zoom and WebEx is that you can have hearings and have people there and not have to travel to Washington or Albany, right, to get there. Tish, any statements, anybody, of what you want to make sure doesn't happen? So we know we have a very good facilitator. And we obviously want it to be positive and up. Oh, look at there, Marie Aragona's on. She's been in this.
Thank you.
Who is 7185.05?
Maybe Bella? I don't know.
718-9599.
Oh, that's you. Good. Hi.
7005.
Yeah.
Jen, is that you? It's Henny.
Hi, Henny. Glad to have you. So we have Henny now and Bella here and Maria. All we're doing tonight, and we're not going to
Okay.
we can talk about a little other things, but mainly we're preparing for our meeting that we want to with Carol Maloney on the 29th of March, which is for Women's History Month. And I just saw the story, by the way. I did not know that I probably had a role in the creation of Women's History Month, but never knew it because Jimmy Carter, who I worked for, was the president that created Women's History Month. And for you all that are all you young ones, is that you know, when I was there, I did have women in the Carter administration, and set up a women's commission with the wildest group of women that he probably regretted because they went on strike on him and everything else. But we did get Women's History Month from Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
So this is Women's History Month, and I think we should say a little bit, very short, whether it's me or somebody else, anybody, about what Women's History Month is, because people actually forget what these things are.
You should do
You
that.
know, well,
You should do that, Jan.
yeah,
Yeah, Jen.
short. Okay, thank you, dears. You're also sweet. So
That's
Maria,
obvious.
we have just spent a few minutes talking about, we have a wonderful facilitator. Jane, you want to announce the name of the person again? You saw that already.
Elizabeth Biz, B-I-Z Mitchell.
Who is in our neighborhood and is very good. And Jane did put that out to a number of us, and none of us responded. So I said, go ahead and firm it
I
up.
just put out to you and Toby, I think.
Okay.
because there-
Well, we
that
didn't
was the
respond, so I
email
said,
that I
firm it
had,
up.
and Lacey, because that was a chain, and I was
Yeah.
in a rush and I didn't know.
What I said, so we weren't disregarded, but I think I think everybody agrees it's a good idea. right?
I
She's a
could
very
send
good
her,
facilitator, but we have to tell her what we're going for.
Yeah.
That's the question. Maria and Francoise and Lisa, where did Lisa go? There she is. She turned off. She's probably
I'm
cooking
so
her
sorry,
dinner.
I have
I'm
to
now
go.
suspicious of anybody that turns off their faces now, because I work with Sante Magelli all the time, and he's always saying, there's those people, they turn off their pictures.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
I know, but say anything you want.
And
to
is there
have
anything else
regarding-
that I can,
Okay, because I need to finish dinner as well. So I'm just going to summarize really
Right.
quickly and I'll type up notes and then to this group. So we are confirmed for the 29th with Carolyn Maloney at 6 o'clock. We need confirmation on the length that Carolyn Maloney will be able to join us. Is it an
I'll do
hour?
that. I'll find out.
Okay, I'm going to type it up and then you can just, okay, I'll type it in. And then confirm that she's actually going to be there. And then confirm whether we're going to do it on WebEx or on Zoom. And then ideally, I'm just going to say Zoom would be better so that we can have a tech person kind of behind the scenes. I then think we need to probably come up with an IT.
If it's going to be a meeting of the committee, has to come through the board's office, which we will use WebEx. I just want to make that,
we were asking you, but you weren't there a minute ago.
well, I was running through the other computer trying to get someone else onto the meeting.
So
No,
is
we're
it?
not blaming you. Nobody's being blamed.
No, I'm just saying I didn't hear it, so I'm sorry.
No, thank you so much, Marie. Is it possible for it to be a non-community board and just have it be from like the Neighborhood Women Association? So that way it could be on Zoom?
I think what Marie's saying is in order for it to count as a valid community board meeting, Marie, correct me if I'm wrong, it's got to be on WebEx. But if it's just an event, it can be on Zoom?
If it's something that we're sponsoring or the committee is sponsoring,
Could we say
it's-
co-sponsor with neighborhood?
I cannot say co-sponsor. I mean,
Oh,
I can't answer that.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is that if I'm doing a meeting of a committee, I have to run it through our system and record the system and
Okay, so we'll think about that.
keep that as a documentation. So if you're going to do something that's outside the board, then you can do what you want to do, but it can't be mentioned through the board.
Well, that's a question then, right?
Okay, and we like the policies to move through the board, but the question is, can people help you, Maria? Would you be offended if you get help from some techie? Because sometimes it gets overwhelming.
I don't need help. I'm just going to be out of the office for a little while. I will be, I'll be out of medical leave for a little bit.
Yeah, but will you be here on the 29th?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so this is an issue of who will be there to do this. So if we get technical help from,
We have staff here in the office that can handle the system.
well, we can ask the outreach committee to help too, right?
It's not a matter of helping, it's a matter of running the meetings from the board. And if you're going to run the meetings outside of WebEx and not through as a committee meeting, then that's your choice. I don't know what else to tell you.
So I think that we should probably maybe take this offline and decide if we want it to be a community board meeting or if we want it to be an event. Because I think the other thing we should talk about is, do we want there to be an RSVP where a link will be sent out? I think that kind of builds a little bit more security and transparency, as well as how do we plan on promoting it? Is it just through our own local internal email list? Do you want to promote it on, try to get Green Pointers to write something about it? So I can type this all up, and then if people can just respond.
Yeah, that's great.
Very
And then
good.
I think we also probably should come up based on how much time. Sorry, I'm like over caffeinated, y'all. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
this is wonderful. Thank you.
I'm like,
Very clear, Francoise. Keep going.
welcome to my corporate days. We need to come up with some type of timeline so that if we know we have her for an hour and a half,
Right.
there's going to be like the 7 minutes of people logging on. Jan, you can do the intro about Women's History Month. Jane, if you want to pop on and introduce Elizabeth Mitchell.
Facilitator.
Yeah, or Jan, if you want, somebody can do that.
Right.
Just kind of, who's going to do it, and then have a rough outline of kind of how the conversation is going to go. So just based on prior conversations, it was women's issues, we can kind of bullet point. But childcare, as well as our senior women, I think that's especially important in our neighborhood. I just had 2 phone calls about that. So women's issues, childcare, senior care, and then
Small business.
small businesses I have next, followed by women in office. Because I think right now there's a new stat that someone just sent me. Currently 15% of the city council are women, and I think only 1 is up for re-election. So we just need to increase those numbers.
Right.
Okay. I have to run.
Okay.
Okay. Any last advice, Jane, before you run?
No, it sounds good. I'll respond on the email. I guess we'll start a conversation about how we're going to proceed, and
Right.
everybody weigh in. And I'm pretty open to other people's, suggestions. So.
If you have any other suggestions on this, because I have to run as well, and then I can type it up.
Right.
Thank
So
you, Francois,
the rest of you can just stay on for a minute. Tish, you have comments, or Marie? I know I have a few more minutes of Maria Aragona, so
Have the agenda with help.
change everything when you 2
I'm
leaves are gone.
sending love, but I have to go because I'm going to be in trouble here. So
Bye,
Come on,
Jane.
goodbye.
Bye.
thank you so much.
Go on, Tish. What's your recommendations?
Oh, shoot. That's right. I'm sorry. Takes me a while to figure out how to leave the meeting.
Tish,
Tish, you're on mute.
you're on mute.
Maybe ask Dina to unmute you.
Well, you want to say something, Marie, while she's getting unmuted?
Sure.
Just the fact of the issue of health that is surrounded around the community area.
Okay.
By health, do you mean?
Vaccination, I mean, the
Can I suggest that caregiving is a big business?
Well,
the whole situation of health.
the fact that I don't believe we have, other than I think Whitecroft and Woodhall, I don't think in Greenpoint there's any vaccination site for the elderly. There aren't, correct?
No.
Well,
I
hospital, I think.
I think some of the pharmacies are doing it.
Right, but
I know
also like there's not.
Napolitano is doing it, but
Yeah,
we
but
don't really
Napolitano-
have a big.
Napolitano is only taken care of right now. There are people that buy, their prescription stuff.
No,
Because
Marie,
already-
that's not true. If
That
you're
would
a
change.
senior, they'll
All
take
right.
care of the
Citizen.
seniors. You have to be in that age category.
Lisa, when I called them up, they told me that I had to be put on a waiting list.
Yeah, we
So-
all had,
yeah.
everybody had to be put on a waiting list.
It's okay. They would just,
So I mean,
I
that's
think
not
that-
really Greenpoint. That's like closer to us. And I
Yeah.
think they're saying like all the way in Greenpoint, like by DuPont houses, like up on that end, and like the heart of Greenpoint, Manhattan Avenue, there's no vaccination site.
Nope.
And I think that's hard, for people in the community. That Woodhall is a really big trek for an elderly person, or even to come all the way to Metro and Graham for an elderly person to travel in the pandemic. It's hard.
What about the Expo Center?
I don't think they have it, but I think if they're willing to host it, that would be
Location.
nice.
I'll email them, and I'll put, because I went through this with Lasores. My mom, maybe this is where I get it from, outside of DC, basically they have like these super fancy senior centers. So all the vaccination sites were going to the fancy senior centers, and there's a large community of people like what's happening here, where it's seniors who are, new term to me, aging in place, like they're aging in their own homes. And my mom organized in a week 170 seniors to get vaccinated in one day, in one location, 2 local pharmacists volunteered their time. Like I don't understand why that's not happening.
Okay, so that's a good questions. So we're getting a list of things and we're kind of saying that we want to have an ongoing engagement with her. Right? I mean, what we don't want is hit or miss, you know, where it's kind of step in, step out on the role of women in her district.
Yeah. Okay. So
And I
that,
see Dina. Dina, did you want to say something?
Hi, Jan. My mom
Hi.
is having a heck of a time. She signed up here in Pennsylvania while she's here, and it's so difficult. I was actually contemplating driving her into Brooklyn because Napolitano, Rite Aid, and Greenpoint, there's been lots of people that have been vaccinated in the neighborhood. And over here, it's not possible. I'm on waiting list for them. I feel terrible. So I see Francois said she was talking about senior support. I'm curious for.
Well, that's what you said, caregiving. The caregiving is now growing as an international issue. It's right now the women of all the world are meeting at the UN. This is the 2 weeks that they meet. And caregiving is at the top of the list finally. But because people, it's a job, right? It's a job, but also a poorly handled job. I don't know if you realize how controlled the people are that are caregivers are in most, I'm not talking about St. Nicholas. I don't know what they do or don't do, but a lot of the immigrants that come in that are caregivers are so afraid to speak to anybody. I mean, it's really scary. And you've had a hard time, right? I mean, here you have getting caregiver that is a companion, you know, and that's offering real care, not just doing functional work, but, you know, is giving support back. And we have now all watched a year where people have died by the thousands, seniors, a lot of women, and had not being able to touch their grandchildren and family. So I'm just saying we can bring up the caregiving. I think your mother could say something about that, what it's been like to go through, because those are jobs, and we are trying to get Carol Maloney to look at where's the money going. All this money, as we know, you can say you got this money, but how it's implemented is what makes the difference. We're on the implementation side. So when we're speaking, when she's here, I hope we're all talking about what could be applied here in this neighborhood. What has to happen here? You know, because the disconnect between Washington and here is a long trip. Yeah, go on, Francois. You were going to say.
sorry, I'm just writing this. So I think something else to be just asking for in general from frankly all of our elected leaders is, now that all this money is coming in,
Right.
what is the transparency, hi Ryan, of allocation of the funds? You know, because I think with small businesses, something that, you know, is a really big concern is that it's going to go top down and not bottom up. You know, and so that when we're talking bottom up, we're talking women owned, we're talking immigrant owned. And so I think just it's like asking for complete transparency, which I know will be hard to get, but that's okay.
It's a monitor implementation here. Ryan, what we're talking about is we're just getting ready for our meeting on the 29th with Carol Maloney. And we're talking about some of the ideas we have. Lisa, Francois, and Toby are speakers as small business, but we want it to be interactive, and we don't know how long we have her and don't have her. We're trying to get all that cleared up before the 29th so we can have a productive meeting with a congresswoman that has considerable power where she stands now. She did was almost all the time when they were having their hearings. I saw that with the Biden people. Anything, Marie, that you want to say? Because we're trying to wrap up this meeting pretty quickly. Several people have to go now, and I kind of messed people up over the time. I've already apologized, Ryan. I don't want to apologize some more.
Jan.
But Marie.
Jan, it's Lisa. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please, Lisa. Lisa's one of the speakers, right?
didn't they say at the last board meeting that they were offering where people can go to seniors houses to administer the vaccine? Wasn't there some type of program that they mentioned on the last board meeting? Because a lot of people are asking me, but I don't really know.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I don't really know
Okay.
who that
Who
was
was-
or what resource that was.
So
because there
Marie, we
still
have
are-
a person that works on seniors all the time. Can you take on some responsibility to find the answer to that?
Yeah, my daughter called me up and I got, had distracted. Who said that and what board?
That's Lisa.
At the
Lisa.
at our last board meeting, didn't somebody, I mean, maybe I wasn't hearing correctly, at our last full board meeting.
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
they-
yes, I'm
Didn't
sorry.
they
That was,
say that there are people that are going to seniors to their houses to administer the vaccine?
no, at the
But
planning.
there are so many people I know that still haven't gotten it,
I
seniors,
mean, the planning board
You know,
meeting.
yes.
Okay,
So-
the only thing that was said was that Karen Maloney had 150, she was getting 150 vaccinations, and they were looking for a site. And that's Miriam O'Donnell, whatever her name is, she's the one that said it.
Oh,
The
I thought
caramel.
that they said that they were having where people can go, like if you're a senior, they will come to your house or, you know, where you live
Only if
and
your house.
administer the vaccines. I mean, it's really terrible. You know, this is our most vulnerable community are the seniors, and they have to be a priority to get vaccinated.
They are a priority, but, so let's search that out. Maria Aragona, do you have any comments to say?
No, but Ryan put something great in the chat about women's health care and asking Carolyn Maloney about how she would implement what she signed on for, the Medicare for All. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think
Thank you, Ryan.
it's a very,
Bella and Henny, you're there somewhere. Is Henny still there? Can we hear from you? What do you want to know from Carol Maloney? The Congresswoman in Washington. Well, I see their names. I don't hear anybody.
I'm trying,
Henny?
she's muted. I don't know. I'm trying to unmute her. And it's not showing. So
Well, I know
it's on
Bella
her
has so
end.
much trouble because she's in Florida. I know that. And
Nice.
she's called me about 3 times already. So anyway, we'll get her questions. Bella, you can write an email. And is there anything else that you want? There's some, we've already gotten out what we don't want to have happen. And we've gotten out what we do want to have happen. But we are trying to also get to know how she sees what's taking place in Washington and how some of that will roll out and how that'll affect our community, right? We're focusing on that.
yeah.
Do we have to say anything about our governor?
No,
That he'll be gone soon.
You think he will be?
no, he won't be gone.
Dan, he's been a good governor. He's in trouble now. He can straighten out and then we can talk about it.
It's not above the law, my love.
Right. So we can see where that one would go. We will know a lot by then, for sure. That's it, I think. I think we have gone as far as we can go. We're getting ready. You will get emails. Well, let's talk about recruitment. Let's finish with recruitment. How do we want to let people know? We can ask the Green Line to put something out if there's time, which there may not be. We can talk to our social media people that we now have in the outreach committee to help us. You know,
And Green, I can talk to Green Pointers, which is more social media. So I think that
that's what I mean. So, and I will go after I have a pretty long list myself. Ryan, can you help?
Hello, this is Henny.
Oh,
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, Henny?
Yes, hi. I didn't know how to unmute myself, but I got unmuted.
Yay.
So I've been following the whole meeting. I think it is very beautiful how people can express everything and anything between women. And I come back with my old demand, request, I would call it, that we fight for our women to be able to have our water exercises, to stay healthy. And this is what I think you have to very much fight for. It shouldn't be a fight, but that's what it actually is. That they should return us the swimming hours because our women are gaining weight and falling apart. Everybody's scrunching about their knees, and they say wherever I walk,
Toby
wherever I
Moscow speaking. How are you? And Jan, I'm sorry, I got on late.
Toby, let her finish and then we'll let you on.
I'm
Toby.
fine.
And Ryan
I'm
had her hand
fine.
up.
No, I just want to ask her to respond on the chat with her phone number because I have an idea I would like to speak with her. I don't have her contact details about this issue. If you don't mind.
About the women's swim?
Yeah, she could send me
Good.
her.
So
Okay,
Henny, put your telephone number and Bella in the chat.
I don't
And
think
I think
Can
we
I-
have some ideas. Those of you that are active with the local city council campaign, different ones, I'm not getting into which ones. I think it's pretty important for them to know which of these people running for city council are going to support the idea of women's swim. Because that is also coming up, but I don't want to, Henny, we have to stick with this topic right now, but we are definitely going to focus on how we can get more information about what people's stance are, since we're going to get a new mayor and a new city council person in 2 districts. So it's pretty important to find out now, since you bring a lot of votes to the table and you're willing to bring a lot of votes to the table. Toby is saying that she will talk to you, Henny.
I
and
appreciate that.
if you give her your number in the chat, you know how to do that?
So
No,
I don't think
I thought if I give my number over the phone, that's what I could do, but I have
Okay,
no
give
chat-
it over
I have
the
no
phone for Henny.
I don't want to disturb, but you're welcome to
star
give it to me
for-
on the phone.
for to-
I think it's terrific that you and Bella have gotten into Zoom and all that stuff. This is quite amazing.
Well,
Want to just give me your phone number?
I'm
So
happy
give your
about it. Let's
telephone
hope we
number,
can-
Henny.
My number is 718-963, actually 718-593-7005.
Okay, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you, and I apologize. for
appreciate
interrupting.
No, now we've been
No,
waiting
no,
for you.
thank
So,
Ryan wants to say something.
yes, we cut her right off again, and I always run into trouble. I don't want to run into trouble. Go on, Ryan.
I was just gonna say we should like make a flyer that we can share. Back in 2018, the women's group I was in, Solidarity Sundays, hosted Carolyn Maloney, and we got about, I don't know, 20 women that came on a Sunday. It was like, but we like, I would say a flyer to tell people, and people will come.
Okay.
Listen to what she has to say.
Toby.
Jan, I know
I
you
can do the
keep saying-
flyer.
No, let me say something. Jan, you keep saying that we don't have a right to do that, but it's not 100% true, because once the community board sends an invitation to Carolyn, which we can deal with that tomorrow, I've posted on my own social media, so we can make our own flyer that says.
Yes, we can,
Women
right.
Committee.
Yeah.
So I'm not like line oriented, but if there's someone on this call who is, I wrote up some text that's been floating around. And the sooner we start posting and promoting this, I'm hearing from people now, we're actually going to do a committee meeting on the 22nd. There are a lot of women business owners in the community, Jan, who started reaching out to me. And I
Good.
think we'll have way more than 20 people participate.
Oh, we will have, because
So that's a
Right.
very good point, Ryan. Thank you for bringing that up.
But I just also want to say for people who are a little bit later, there's been the conversation if this should be coming out from the community board or if it should be coming out from like the North, from
independent.
North Women.
Right.
Because if it comes out from the community board, it's going to be on WebEx, which we all know it's run. So if we want it to be a little bit more tech savvy, that maybe Zoom is a better way to do it. So I think we need to take it offline and come to agreement on how that is going to be done before we really start to send out any type of invitations. The other thing is, Zoom, we can do RSVP, and then send out the link so that we kind of also know, just to create a safe space for the women in our community. And then I can design the flyer. So Toby, if you want to send me the information that you've typed up.
So
Okay,
that's the issue, Toby. So let's
Yeah, but
let's
can we stick to this point, Zoom versus WebEx? Can we jump, Jan, can we talk about this for a minute?
yes, go on.
So the question is, what does the group think about whether we need the credibility of CB1 or we should just do this on our own? Because as much as I mean, every time I use WebEx, I get disconnect. It's really not user friendly, but then we can't do this as organized as part of CB1. I do think there's some value to being run by two committees. It's bringing real credibility to this. So what does everybody think? I'll be quiet and everyone's welcome to respond.
Well, my only concern, I do like that the user-friendly portion of Zoom and being letting everyone else be able to participate when some people get frustrated with difficulties. But my opinion is, if it's going to impact the Congresswoman showing up, or she has come under the premise that it has to do with the community board, I don't want to lose her based on that. So I guess we need to clarify, with her.
It doesn't make a difference to Carolyn.
Okay.
In terms of what we're trying to achieve, which is really organizing people in the community, I do think there's a benefit to being able to use the platform of the community.
Either way, we can bring all the results of the meeting to a committee meeting, and then we bring them into the board that way too. So it's not that you can't bring the results of what happens back in through that loop. We can take it right back in. That's why we want to be able to do both inside and outside. But do we want to check with her office and Jane, who set up this, and give a day to it? We have a couple days to that question.
Hold on,
Or do
let's
you want to decide?
Well, let's stick to this one thing about Zoom versus
Right.
WebEx. Jan made a good point that we cannot present it to the community board if it's not an official community board meeting. So my reaction.
No, I
to that-
said we can, because we'll bring it back to our committee. People that are in the meeting can bring back the results from the meeting to our
Okay, so
meeting. And then we have a quorum, it goes through.
Okay, so the answer is that Carolyn will do this whether or not it's a community board event. So if maybe we should say it's opposite. Is there anyone on this call who feels strongly that it should be an event of the community board? And then we'll go backwards from there. Anybody? So no one feels strongly that there should be a community board event?
No.
No. Okay, so then.
Bella and Hanny, you understand what we're saying,
What I
right?
would say is again, I'm not the most technically savvy person on the planet, but I do agree that it's very not user friendly and that there's a lot of benefits to being on Zoom. So is the consensus here that we should move this to Zoom and just do it as concerned members of the community? Maybe even Jan, we can start a new organization. Or we can call, or maybe we could even get the North Brooklyn, the North Brooklyn Chamber we could speak to people from the North Brooklyn Chamber and get them to be our collaborators. I don't think there's any
Well, I
shortage.
think neighborhood women. Jan,
I think it should come from neighborhood women because it's more than just business. And I think neighborhood women, Jan has done so much in the community.
Is that an actual organization?
It's a non-for-profit and
Yes,
it's located on
it
Manhattan.
is an actual one, Toby. But we can also do it. We can joint up. We can have co-sponsors if we go this way. So the chamber and other groups can all co-sponsor, right? So we can co-sponsor groups that we want to bring in. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so we're moving on. And by the way, we have all been unhappy about the WebEx. So I'm saying this is one way to just say that this is not acceptable, that the city is forcing everybody to use the system that is just definitely not working. And I know Marie has tried, I want to just say Marie Bueno has tried hard
Jan,
to get
Jan,
that to work.
they're not forcing us. We used our budget money differently. There's other
Okay.
CBs that use it. So it's
Thank you.
like we could have, but we didn't use our money that way.
That's right, Brian. Thank you.
What I mean, that means that
Let me
everybody
just
has-
clarify that the borough president has taken this on for us, for all the community boards to do this. This is something that he sponsored and is covering, and that's what we're using.
So Marie,
So-
do you have, could you speak to us as the, a member of the community board? Do you have an issue if we do this independently and then bring it back to the community board? Is that problematic in any way?
I don't have an issue. What you need to do is discuss it with the chair.
So we
I
should speak
will-
to the Alex
I mean,
about this?
I can't express from behalf of the board's policy, but anything can be brought to the chair of the board.
So
And so
okay.
then it can be, you know, there is a process of things that are sponsored by the board, things that we have to make sure is correct. So that's why I was saying about the flyer. Sometimes we need to see the flyer. We need to see who the co-sponsors are. And
In
if it's a meeting, if this is a meeting that's coming from the board's committee, the Women's Issues Committee, then the meeting has to go through this office, through WebEx. That was my comment. If it's
So
not going to be through this,
Yeah.
through the committee, and it's not going to be a meeting of the community board committee, then it's up to you guys to decide how you want to do that.
So let me send her an email, you know, out of respect, and explain to her that because of the technical challenges, we feel that the meeting would be more inclusive if we move to Zoom, and see if there's some way to still have some affiliation with the community board. And if not, we would do this just as a neighborhood women's event, and we could independently report back to the community board. Because I think that we're hearing a lot of feedback is that people are finding it very difficult. And Zoom is just much more collaborative. Where you don't have to sign on. So let me send that email tonight.
Okay.
And anybody who wants to be in the planning that's not on the email that Jan sent around, just reply all, so I'll keep everybody copied on this
Okay.
email.
And you heard that we have a facilitator for the event, Toby, from the neighborhood and all that. You saw that Jane has set that up. She was on before you are on now. So that should be lively and peppy. Lisa, you and Francoise are still speakers. And so that we have certainly a focus. One of the focuses on women in business and the COVID and what's happening. But we've gone pretty broadly in terms of the questions that we're putting out. And for
Bonding, just
all
to-
of you that are on here, some of you may remember, but Marie and I remember that years ago when we had another crisis, the federal government set up a program called CETA, CETA, and I bring it up periodically because what it did was it provided people jobs. They have to find jobs for women. Women are losing jobs in huge numbers, and they paid salaries for women to work in volunteer and not-for-profit organizations. That's what built Neighborhood Women, St. Nicholas, School Settlement. All these programs had staff that were people that got a CETA job. And I would like Carol and Maloney to relook at that because most of the groups that we have in our neighborhood came out of that process of having 5 years or more of CETA money coming from the federal government. And they do have to find jobs for people in New York for sure. So you should think about, what do you want to recommend to her? That she's going to tell you what's going on, but we're telling her we want to make sure that we follow how it's implemented in our own community, right? We're staying focused on our community. And anything else do we have? Because we're now later than I was saying before. Did anybody have any comments?
Yeah, so the last comment is I had made a mistake, Jan, with the dates. And the date I propose is actually on the Passover holiday. So it would preclude the Orthodox women from participating. So I spoke with Carolyn's office. That's the 29th. They could do the 30th at 5:30, which is still Passover, but we're allowed to use like electronics, so everybody could get on. So I wanted to see if everybody on this call can do 5:30 on the 30th, because that date, Carolyn, is available, and it's not a Jewish holiday.
How did you end up giving us a Jewish holiday, Toby?
Because to be totally honest, because usually it's 2 days and it starts Friday night.
I
So
see.
I realized the holiday is 3 days. I got a
So
little confused.
Lisa, Francoise, do you have a problem with the 30th?
What day of the week is that?
It's a Tuesday night.
So that's
Okay.
better.
Tuesday, the 30th.
Okay, anybody have a problem?
You just have to
Okay, so
check
we're
with,
going ahead.
Jane. We just gotta let Jane know and have
We
her.
have to let
Hey,
Jane
I
know.
had sent an email to her. I think she responded to the email, but I'll send it to her again.
Okay.
So,
Responded on one of the threads. And I apologize again.
Toby, what
Okay.
time again? Did you say
She's
5:30?
available- Yeah, she's available 5:30. And Jan, if we have another minute, I just wanted to ask everyone's opinions on the format.
So Toby, just because for those of us who were here at 5:30, I'm gonna write a summary of what was discussed in the first half an hour.
Great, thank you.
So we came up with an outline and all of that, and then once we start to collect just the information, if you want to send that to me with either everyone on CC or just directly, and then Lisa, the information I asked from you, I'll work on trying to get a flyer together and have it to everyone just to take a peek at by like Thursday morning.
Okay, that's great. So I'll just send you the confirmed date and a little blurb I wrote, which you're welcome to reject or use.
Okay.
And,
I
just
liked
wanted-
your little blurb before, Toby.
I just wanted to get the ball rolling, and then you.
Are we switching the date now?
We're switching the date to the 30th at 5:30 p.m.
And Carolyn's available?
Yes, she's confirmed. I actually sent her a calendar invitation from my personal email just to have it on her schedule.
And
So-
we're gonna talk to Dallas.
Yeah,
So
we'll
we'll
be-
get back to you all in the next 2 days.
Yeah, and then I was going to say the next 2 days, we'll Jan and I will.
And each of us should bring in, it is Women's History Month. Each of you should bring in people, not just to mobilize, but women that you think, you want that haven't been around. You bring in young women or other women that you haven't seen that you think this would be good for them to hear. Because so many people feel lost. They don't know how things happen and why they happen. Bring them along.
Yeah. So, and I wanted just to say, Jan, that on the 22nd, which thank you, Marie, for sending out, we're going to send around a notice soon. We're doing a Economic Development Committee meeting. I'm not excluding men, but I've been actively working to bring in women-owned businesses. It's going to really be focused on some of the challenges that they're facing, like with some of the open streets programs. So there's just a lot to cover in our meeting with Carolyn. This is just very local. So anyone on this call who either wants to participate or knows of a business that's been affected and they're willing to come on and speak. There's a whole effort now with regard to the streets that are closed on White and on Berry. You're welcome to reach out to me by email so we can have people participating. Because as Jan pointed out, we're looking to turn this into something that's not one, it's obviously International Women's Month is important, but we really need to start something that's going to be a voice of power and a voice of communication to local, state, and the federal government about women in our community and how they've been affected by in this moment. So it's very critical. Thank you, Jan, for leading.
Thank you,
That is
Toby.
a joint meeting, Toby?
Toby, I just want to clarify one thing
It's
because
my committee. The 20.
you're bringing up open streets.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure, because I feel like that's been a very controversial topic that I think people are there is some compromise and some good naturedness happening within the community. So I just want to make sure that it's not about open streets, but it's really about women. Because I think that we need to kind of leave the open streets topic for maybe a different call with Maloney.
Yeah, she wasn't talking about bringing that up to Maloney. She was saying it's coming up, and by the way, it's coming up everywhere. So Francoise is right. My little newspaper from Ainsley Graham Avenue, I opened it up, and usually it's talking about cats and dogs that are lost and people needing a couch and all this, and all of a sudden there's a whole thing on the open street. So people being very upset about what's happening. So it definitely needs to have a now focused maybe the outreach committee should convene a meeting on it, Francois. I don't know if Sante wants to take that on, but somebody, there has to be some hearing somewhere. Because they're apparently closing off streets without talking to everybody. You agree with that, don't you, Francois?
I've spent all day Friday with all the businesses on
Right.
Point Ave. I just walked West Street for an hour and a half and spent 2 hours writing a recap email. So
Okay, so we're saying that topic needs to go someplace because it's
Yeah, so
not here,
Francois,
not here at this moment.
web ironically just froze, but what I was trying to say is, I don't know, are you on, I get so confused because I'm involved in so many committees. Are you on the outreach, Sante Michelli's committee?
Yes,
you have-
she
like,
is, and I am too.
I mean, Sante and I have been friends for a while. So
Yeah, so I
And so is Toby.
Yeah, I got confused already. Who's on what? Every night I'm on another WebEx, but I think that we do need to organize a separate effort around this issue. And I'm not even sure what the program is that the Berry is closed on, but there's a couple of
So
women-owned
it's
companies.
another conversation that we can sort out.
Yeah,
So
we
we're
should do
not
that.
getting into that
Now-
now. We're staying on
You guys,
women.
technically, there's a committee. It's called the Transportation Committee, and DOT presents there, and that's where the discussion has been happening for
Is
like
that what it
5
is?
months. So if you want to be part of that conversation, you go to that committee. Like, I mean, again, I kind of feel like I don't understand how it got discussed in outreach committee, because I thought the outreach committee was about how the community board is outreaching. So I feel like if we create 500 meetings about something, you're only taking away from all the work that Eric has done, which is like literally hours and hours and months of conversation.
But Ryan, I think that this is an issue that is well beyond transportation.
Then it
I
should be
didn't
in the
know-
full board, but we shouldn't have 700 different conversations, because it's
That's
unfair
exactly-
to people that have been having the conversation since, like, then we need to say this is so many committees, it needs to be the full board. But it's like, it is like DOT, it's a DOT administered program. The open cultural is SAPO, it's mayor's office, that's different. So again, they're two different programs, but Open Streets is administered by DOT, and that is a transportation committee. And the conversation has been happening since August. So if
Okay.
people want to participate in that, they should come to the transportation meetings.
Okay, so.
but I
Ryan,
think
wait,
I think
One thing.
where the
Francois,
committees,
yeah,
I think where
let's stop because this is the women's meeting and we could be just, she's made a very relevant point, Ryan. It's that there are these two different things, but because they're heated up now, Ryan, we can just tell the transportation committee that
They've
there
been, Francois, no, we've been like, again, like, I feel like me and Francois have been attending meetings that, like, there's people that have been attending meetings and discussing this. And again, Eric has been like, again, I feel like it would be unfair of suddenly the transportation committee to start having a discussion about women's swim, right? Like, just out of the blue saying,
I'm
there's
agreeing
people
with you,
complaining,
Ryan,
we're
did
not
you
gonna
hear me?
have, like, but like, it's, again, the conversation, they're like, like,
comparison. It's not a fair
Ryan, I'm
comparison.
agreeing with you. I'm agreeing that it should go back to the transportation committee.
But-
But
Okay,
obviously, people are getting heated up. We are
Yes.
not going to talk about it now. We're going to close this meeting. You're right.
Well,
You're
I make
right.
one-
You're right.
But I
And
think-
Toby, this is what's kind of happening because if you bring six block associations, as Sante did, which were actually quite effective, to illustrate a point that people on the ground are not being
All
informed.
right, I have to go, guys.
Yeah, Maria.
So have a good night.
That's all he was trying to do was,
Hold on.
and then they all got into it. So I agree with you, Ryan, that it's not our committee.
They felt so heated because the technology and the process now is very challenging for people in the community to feel heard. But I don't agree with Ryan in that, yes, obviously the transportation committee should take the lead and Eric does a phenomenal job. But at
Yes,
this
he
point,
does.
we are getting calls as other committees. It's having a very significant impact on people's businesses and on people's quality of life. And there has to be a broader conversation.
So we can say, let's have a joint meeting. You can have a joint meeting with Eric's committee. and that's-
Eric has a meeting coming up, and one of these is going to be the topic on his committee meeting.
When is it, you know?
I believe it's the April 6th.
Okay,
So
so
you
I'm gonna,
might want to ask him if he wants a joint meeting.
What's the-
Because that
what-
affects business.
Yeah.
Those
Marie,
streets
what's the-
affect business.
process to ask for a joint meeting? If we want it, we should just email Eric directly?
You need to
Yes.
discuss it with the committee chair.
Yeah, that's Eric.
Okay, very good. Thank you for the clarification.
And a lot of women and children are speaking up, so it becomes a women's thing because of noise and this and that. If we want, but we're not that far along into it, so we're not gonna ask for a joint meeting. I don't think, we're not ready. It's just an issue that I've heard a lot. Okay, so we will get back to you. Thank you. We're always a little feisty group. And we'll get back to you about our meeting, and we want to have a successful meeting with Carolyn, and we still have to narrow it in a bit, our focus. But we also have 3 speakers, remember, Lisa, Francoise, and Toby are speaking at that meeting, and we want to get these things clarified in the next few days. So thank you very much for coming out, and
I
enjoy
just-
your dinners.
I just want to say, I heard from Eric, for the head of the transportation committee. I just want everyone to know, Toby, are you still on here? No, she's not. I'm going to email her. It's April 6th is the next transportation meeting.
Yeah, Maria just announced that. Okay, so put that in the chat. And I think it's good that people are getting quite lively about a lot of issues. So, good night, dears.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
We're getting tired of
Bye-bye.
MSNBC. We like our own little feistiness better. Bye.